This particular activity is called telephone. And what I typically do in a class, if it's set up like the kind that you see in this picture, is I'll create three separate groups out of the columns that you see here. So this could be group 1, group 2, and group 3. And each group represents one team. And what I'll do is I will have three sentences in my head, such as the dog went to the park, the dog found a bird, and the dog ran to the bird. Three separate sentences depending on the level of proficiency that my students have. This is primarily for an English class, but you could also do this for any other kind of language-based class where you maybe need to cool down or warm up before doing some other activity that requires more rigorous thinking. So I will break these groups up into three, and I will have these three sentences, and I will whisper to the first student in the column. I'll whisper the one sentence that I have in mind for this particular group. And I will have the student try to repeat the sentence back to me in a whisper. Once they get it, I will say to the student, please keep that sentence in your head. You might have to do some miming here or some extra gesticulation for the student to understand that you want them to keep the sentence in their head and not do anything with it just yet. I will repeat the process with group 2 and then group 3. And then once these first three people have their sentences memorized, then I will say whisper to the student behind them. And then the students will whisper to the student behind them, and then I will make the same instruction again to the students in the second row, and they will whisper to the people in the back row. And then the students in the back row will be instructed to do either one of two things. Either they will have to write their sentences down on paper using pen, or they will have to get together as an entire class and decide which of the sentences is number 1 in the story, which of the sentences is number 2, and which of the sentences is number 3. So in the previous example of the dog going to the park and seeing the bird and running after it, the students would have to decide that the dog going to the park is the first part of the story, and the dog seeing the bird is the second part, and the dog running after the bird is the third part of the story. Now, of course, you can vary this in difficulty, or you can change the story up, make it involve people or objects or analogies or metaphors, however you want to make this activity fun for yourself and the students. You can do and modify accordingly. Thanks so much. Bye for now.